Welcome to Aging Insights. I'm Melissa Chalker, Program Manager of the New Jersey Foundation for Aging. Aging Insights is produced by the New Jersey Foundation for Aging to provide information and resources to boomers, seniors, and caregivers. Today we have with us three guests who will tell us what the County Office on Aging is, what they do, as well as give us a look at senior services across the state. Our guests are Lorraine Joewono of the Bergen County Office on Aging, Joanne Fetzko of the Somerset County Office on Aging, and Jane Maloney of the Ocean County Office on Aging. Thank you all for being with us today. We know that the county offices on aging are vital parts of the community in each county, and so we're thrilled that you're able to join us today to tell us a little bit more about what they do and inform our audience about your services. So I'd like to start with maybe just telling the audience what a county office on aging is and where it came from. And Jane, if you would start us off on that topic.
Well, I'd be glad to respond to that. And actually, the county offices on aging are part of a really vast network of senior services throughout the United States. We were actually established by law way back in 1965, and it was the same year that Medicare and Medicaid were enacted. But the Older Americans Act really addressed the social service needs of older adults. So it put into place really a vast network of service, beginning with the Administration on Aging in Washington, a state unit in the state of New Jersey. And then the good part about the Older Americans Act, they took the planning and the providing of the service back to the local entity. And in New Jersey, there were 21 area agencies on aging, or in some counties they're called Department of Senior Services or Aging.
Correct.
And they really are responsible for looking at their own county and developing a good system. Interesting enough, I think we're all from very different counties. Ocean is quite different than Somerset. We're very different from Bergen. So it makes a good sense to take the planning back to the local level.
Absolutely. It's good to see that that foresight was there in recognizing that not only geographically but demographically and certainly the makeup of the county might be different, and so they might need to tailor their services not only to their seniors but the rest of their community maybe in a more specific way than say one of the other counties that you mentioned. So it's good to know that is there. And so what are some of the programs or services that you might have that are directly tied to the Older Americans Act?
Well, I think, programs that really address four key ingredients. And as you just mentioned, an area agency can fashion their system of service according to their area. But according to the Older Americans Act, there were four key components that must be followed. Their community support, those programs that will keep people alive and well and as engaged as possible. Home support for the growing population of the more frail and vulnerable. Nutrition support, which is huge in New Jersey. I think that there were over 5.3 million meals provided to residents of New Jersey.
It's quite an impact.
Yes, and then the key to it is the access, making sure that people have the access to get the service. Many of them, they're there, people just don't know how to access them.
Sure.
There are two other resources that are important in the Older Americans Act, and that is for people to understand that they do have rights and that they do have protections under the law. So we are required under the Older Americans Act to provide legal services. And when Jane talked about nutrition, it's important that people are socialized. Yes. So we provide nutrition in a congregate setting, often thought of or heard as senior centers.
Right.
There are several senior centers across the county, across the state. And also home-delivered meals. So as people become more frail and they become homebound, they still have those same nutritional needs. And a good factor in the homebound or home-delivered meals, as most people know it, is that clients get a daily check. They get somebody to say hello, how are you doing today?
Sure.
And they get the warm meal that meets a third their RDA, which is their required dietary intake.
That's a really great point.
Jeannie was saying about each county, the 21 counties in New Jersey, we're all basically belong, we all do the same services. Some of them a little different than others. We have urban counties, we have suburban counties, and we also have rural counties, which makes us unique in the state of New Jersey with the services that we deliver.
Yeah, I think that's a really great key point for our audience to know, that the services may be the same, but maybe served a little differently, provided a little differently in order to serve the community in the best way possible. So I know one of the things that we know at the foundation about the County Office on Aging is that you provide information, and it's always the number that we give people who call our office for information is to contact their County Office on Aging. So would one of you please tell us a little bit about information and assistance as far as people calling the office and what information you might provide them?
Well, sure, that's the key to the access. It's important that when people make a call, they get connected in a timely and in a correct way. So we have a statewide number, and I think the beauty of that number, 877-222-3737, is that if you're in Bergen and you pick up the phone and call that number, you're going to get Bergen County's information and assistance service. So it really, to me, that's probably one of the most important functions of an area agency on aging, is really to make that connection, to get that person as quickly as possible, get them the best information, or if they need some additional assistance in connecting, make sure they get that.
The information and assistance that's provided at each office, when you make that phone call, you come in contact with a live person. That's one of our major strong points, that we do not have an answering machine, we do not have a hold line, so you will talk with a specialist who knows their community resources best. They know who their partners are, they know anything from the local hospitals to visiting nurses, home health aides, services that people need to remain in the community healthy. The other point is that the AAAs, or Area Agencies on Aging, also known as Office on Aging,
a good thing to tell our
have a philosophy of from the access point of mind, body, spirit. So we try to keep people engaged in the community, we keep them well and oriented, and we give them the community setting of their choice. So if someone wants to remain in their home, our objective is to help them in a non-biased manner, find out what the resources are, find out who their community partners are, so they can stay at home healthy, risk-free.
And we try to be that one-stop shopping center where they can just make that call and we can help them coordinate or get to those services that they need, so they don't have to pick up the phone and make so many phone calls.
Sure, because we know personally, that can be frustrating if you call one place and don't get what you want and have to continue calling. So it's great to kind of identify your office as a one-stop for those types of services and information.
You had mentioned assistance, and I think that's the key point, because the key point is it's not only information, but it's then assistance to connect with that service. So if there's an application that has to be filed and someone has difficulty doing that, the staff will help fill out that application, make sure the information is correct, and that application is then moved forward. That's different from information and referral, where you may just give somebody a phone number and say, are you okay, can you move with this yourself?
And so the assistance factor is that
really
follow through and helping to make sure that they get that service of the information that you were able to provide them with. So you all must have giant resource books in your office. Is that correct, Lorraine? Would you say are there giant resource books that you have?
Well,
with all
we have
this
the
community
resource. We
information?
also have resources online, which anyone can get online to see what resources. We're on the county websites, and also NJFA has their own website. But yes, we have resources for, like Joanne said, for any service that they need. We can be that one-stop shopping center for them, which is so important. Especially for a senior. I mean, we get confused calling and having to, make other phone calls or what programs are available. And the nice part, even if they don't know what services they need, because sometimes they're not in tune with what services, they can make that one call, tell us what situation they're in, and we can tell them what services that they would need to help them.
That's so vital for our audience to know, that maybe you're sitting at home and you have some concerns either about yourself or a loved one, and you can just pick up the phone and call that number and know that you can tell your story, so to say, and that the person on the other line might be able to suggest some services or some programs for you to reach out to help you with those concerns. So I think that's a really important point to make, Lorraine, about that in particular. And Joanne, would you like to add
I did want
something?
to piggyback on that, because just came to mind that we received a call yesterday from Ocean County from a caregiver. So we do support caregivers, and the beauty of us, that the AAAs existing in all 21 counties, is that we are partners.
Right.
We do meet on a director's level monthly. We do share information, and we do know who each other is in that county. We also know staff in that county, and we know what each county looks like.
Right.
So a caregiver could call from Ocean County and say, I have a loved one in Somerset County. This is my situation.
Right.
How can you help me?
Right.
Ocean County can help that caregiver with some respite and support on the caregiver level,
Right.
and then Somerset County would help the individual
senior.
with their hands-on care or personal care that they need. So it's a collective partnership, and we extend arm to arm
Right.
across the state, and not only across the state, across the nation.
Right.
So if someone lived in another state and had a loved one living in New Jersey, we could also assist them.
Wow, that's a really great example, I think. Thank you for sharing that story. And so you've mentioned a couple of you now, NJ4A, and just so our audience doesn't think we're speaking a different language than them, would you be able to elaborate and tell us what NJ4A is?
Well, that's really the New Jersey Association of Area Agencies, or the New Jersey Association of Senior Services, Offices on Aging. And it's an organization that provides all of us the opportunity to come together to problem solve, to look at advocacy issues, and to really be that one voice in terms of offices on aging,
Right,
area agings throughout the state of New Jersey.
Great, thanks for sharing that with us. And so also what I wanted to touch on today is all these great services that you've mentioned. Is there a cost to them for people who might call your office? What's the funding look like for these services? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, according to the Older Americans Act, which is the foundation of most of the programs that we speak about today, there are other programs, however, that each agency can tap into to get assistance for people. But according to the Older Americans Act, there is no charge for any service. There's a suggested donation, and it's a private, confidential donation. And really the rationale for that was, if you look back to 1965, many of the older adults back then felt that any type of government program was a gimme program, and it was felt that they wouldn't participate.
Right.
So even now on the nutrition sites, the donation system is confidential and private. People get an envelope. Nobody knows what they put into their envelope.
Sure.
The age for the Older Americans Act is 60 years and over. However, once again, many of the counties, and they're going to talk about it in just a little bit with the ADRCs, they've expanded that to open access to individuals with disabilities.
Right.
That does not mean that those individuals would be partaking in a number of the Older Americans Act programs, but they would still have the same access to other programs in the community.
Right.
So that piece was expanded.
Sure, sure. And so since you've kind of entreed us onto that topic, Lorraine, I'd like to start with you. If you could kind of explain what Jane has just mentioned and what an ARDC is.
ADRC.
ADRC. There.
ADRC is
all these
Aging
acronyms.
Disability Resource Connection. And basically, if you remember New Jersey Ease out of 2000, when that was put together, it is basically an extension of the New Jersey Ease into taking the funding and taking services, and not only serving ages 60 and above, but also serving those with disabilities ages 18 to 59 to coordinate, again, that one-stop shopping where they can come to us or call us, and even whether they're disabled or they're a veteran, we can seamlessly provide those services and get with them, to them, the services they need as a one-stop shop.
And Joanne, what would you add on to that?
The one point that I think it's important for people to understand with Aging and Disability Resource Connection is that there really is no wrong door to services. We are experts in the information. We partner with our local service providers. As I had stated before, we work with the visiting nurses, home health aid services, any service that a client would need to keep them intact and healthy in the community. We're looking at safety issues, and not only safety issue, but preventative, so people can have a good quality of life. So that partnership is really part of the process. when people start to understand and the partners start to connect the continuum of care, a client can enter at any point and receive through any agency and receive that same information and that same access to services.
Something else that I know is maybe on people's minds as we're heading into spring, and spring is upon us, that there's something available in your office called a farmer's market coupon. And would you tell our audience a little bit about what those are and how people get them and how they're used?
It's a program really for lower income people. You need to be around 185% of poverty. But it allows residents of the state of New Jersey to buy Jersey fresh fruits and vegetables, and they're given coupons. I think last year they got $20 and $5 coupons to be able to purchase these fresh foods. So on the one hand, it's very nice in terms of helping people, educate them about the importance of good nutrition. Usually they're run through the nutrition programs in the county, and I know in our county there's a great deal of outreach, and some of the farm fresh markets come into the different sites and are able to give out the food, and they're closely monitored by each nutrition program in New Jersey has a nutritionist or a dietitian on staff. So they provide the nutrition education along with that. So it's really a nice entree to other programs. We've seen that it really opens the door to do some really good outreach. People love a coupon. Yes. We all love a coupon. And it's really a great outreach mechanism to give people other information, perhaps about the expanded SNAP food stamp program, or some of the Medicare savings programs for lower income people. So it really has a real impact on the residents of New Jersey.
That's interesting to know. Not only does it advocate for fresh produce to be part of a diet for a senior, but also that it is giving them this, as you say, more information about nutrition and other programs that they could take part of. Would you say, Joanne, that it looks similar in Somerset County?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The program, the Farmers Market program is one program that's consistent throughout the state, whereby every individual does get the $20 in vouchers. The Office on Aging, through its senior center process, provides education. We promote the five a day, 5 fruits and vegetables, so people can have an understanding of the vitamins, minerals that are important for them to keep healthy and keep moving.
Great.
And that also brings you into contact with a lot of people that need services that didn't know what we did. They know about the farmers market, of course. And we also go out into the communities and not only do the outreach for that and our services, but we're also at the farmers market giving coupons out. So that, you know, if you didn't know about it, people do come over to us and, you know, they ask if they're eligible and, you know, they get the services.
And it's a great opportunity for you to tell them more about what your office does. Would you say that the farmers market coupons might look different in some of our other more urban counties? And I mentioned before that we do have a vast difference in some of the counties here in our state. Would you say that they have to do a little more outreach in terms of getting farmers markets and getting places for people to find fresh produce, or?
Well, they may, because they talk about the urban deserts.
Yeah.
So Ocean County doesn't really experience that, but in some of the more urban areas, they might have to do some more intensive
footwork,
to be able to get fresh fruits and vegetables into senior centers. You'll have to invite someone from one of our other counties.
I know we've talked with folks in Mercer County with that before, and they have a coalition of nutrition programs throughout the county that meet to talk about just how to do that. So I'm sure a lot of our other urban counties are doing similar work.
And I think there's been work in the urban counties in terms of starting some gardens right in the senior centers.
Yes. Camden and Mercer both do that, I think.
Yes.
So that's great. Well, now that we've reached this point where I think you've provided us with a lot of great information, is there anything else that the three of you would like to add or tell the community about your services and about the County Office on Aging?
I just always suggest to people to pick up the telephone and make the call. It's an easy call to make, and as Joanne said, you know, you're going to get a real live person at the end of the line who's going to listen and make every effort to help you get connected.
Great.
And I'm sure we all have health and wellness units. We all have a SHIP office, which stands for State Health Insurance Program. They take care of your Medicare needs, Medicare Part D. We were instrumental, the AAAs, in getting the information out when there was that big change to Medicare Part D. And the services that we do, and again, information and assistance. And we have also other programs so many programs that people don't realize that we are your planning agency and the coordination of services for seniors in all the counties.
That's great to mention about the SHIP program, because I think that is a valuable thing, that even if you don't need services, maybe you just have a couple of questions about your prescription plan or how to apply for supplemental insurance, and you can call your county office on aging and get assistance with that stuff. So it's great. Joanne, would you add any last thoughts?
I would like to add a last thought. I'd like to stress the importance of the support that we give to caregivers. And I'd also like to stress the people understanding that aging is our business. It's everyone's business, like you say, and that, with that said, it's important to understand the process. It's important to understand the informal caregiving network that we need from caregivers to be able to support the system. The number of seniors, 10,000 seniors, are turning 65 every month, and they will be for the next 19 years. So we're talking about major populations. We're talking about major points where we need support from everyone, and that we feel that we can be part of a collective network and part of that aging and disability connection to make New Jersey the best it can be for our seniors.
We've been talking a lot about the ARDCs, and if you could, did I say it right that time? ADRCs. I'm gonna learn it. ADRCs. Could you tell us a little bit more about what that looks like across the state, maybe?
Sure. The Aging and Disability Resource Connection, as I had said before, is it's actually part of a national movement. It's a business process. And the beauty of it is it's really tightening up the information that we give to people. There now is a need-based assessment tool. So if somebody calls up and they identify their problem as needing personal care in the home, they would be asked a series of questions. And based on that comprehensive assessment, they're steered in a direction to receive particular services. It may tell them that they're eligible to receive services under New Jersey's Medicaid waiver programs. In New Jersey, we have services called Global Options. And what that does is allows people to remain in the community. They're people who are very frail and at nursing home level of care, which means if they had no one to care for them or additional services, they would be going to a nursing home.
Right.
This gives them the option to opt out of going to the nursing home and to have formal care come into their home, provide care, as well as informal care. Right. Some of the services and some of the funding pays for what's called personal assistance, where you can hire a caregiver who can be a friend or a relative, a student, or a professional formal caregiver. The beauty of that, again, is that we need caregivers. We need an informal system to provide services that are not skilled care. I may need somebody to help me take a bath, or I may need somebody to help me cook a meal. And those are things that allow people to stay well and stay in the home.
Great. I think that's a really valuable program to know, that people can call and be assessed for what services fit them right.
Yes, and the beauty of it really is that it gives people the ability to keep their independence, make choices, and stay in the setting of their choice. We know that most people want to stay at home. And we also know if we really look at the federal push in federal budgets and how much money is spent through the Older Americans Act or on home and community-based services, it really is a small amount. The non-discretionary fund is less than 4% of the federal budget. And therefore, but the amount that it extends and the cost of care in the community by maximizing informal care, maximizes services to all people. And again, I've talked about the numbers before and the growing numbers, so it really does make good sense.
Great. Thank you for sharing that with us.
And that's that seamless transition that we were talking about with aging and disability, and making sure that even if you don't know what you need, if you contact us, we can help you get those services, especially to keep people in their homes for as long as possible, because nobody wants to go to nursing homes if they can prevent it. And we also have all those other wraparound services, like the Meals on Wheels, you know, a phone call to a senior to keep them socially involved with people. And also ramps, if they need ramps, if they're coming home from the hospital, or any of those services, chore service, we have them. We're the wraparound, or we can get those services to them.
Right, so it's not just one component of, providing a caregiver, someone to come in and help them physically, but also those other bits and pieces that allow them to stay home. And still have a healthy meal and socialization and all those key factors.
It may be small handyman services, so we can prevent people from risk for falls. We don't want somebody falling, because we know when somebody falls, that usually is the downward spiral from them having to leave their home and have institutionalized care.
Sure. Absolutely. And Jane, we've talked a lot in this conversation about the Older Americans Act, and I understand that it's up for reauthorization. There's some movement in Washington around that. And would you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it's been introduced by Senator Sanders recently, I think at the close of 2011. And there is a great deal of activity around the reauthorization because, as I mentioned earlier, that really is the foundation of what we do, particularly in New Jersey, in terms of, the mission, the original mission of the Older Americans Act was to keep people as independent as possible for as long as possible. So in New Jersey, there is activity with advisory committees, clusters of our advisory committees, because each Area Agency on Aging, also known as Senior Services, has an advisory council. And we will be having a meeting actually in the near future discussing how we can impact upon the reauthorization of the Older Americans Act.
Great. And those are community members that actually have input on what you might suggest to your state unit as well as the federal government about what you'd like to see in the Older Americans Act, correct?
That's correct, yes. Every county has their own advisory, senior advisory committee.
Well, again, I thank you all three for joining us. You've been marvelous and provided us with some really great information, and I just want to reiterate what you've said, Joanne, that it is really important to be involved in what's going on in your community, and I think the County Office on Aging is doing a lot to serve our growing senior population. So thank you again, not only for joining us, but for your work. We want to remind you to find out about any services in your area or for more information, please contact your County Office on Aging or the Aging and Disabled Resources Connection by calling 1-877-222-3737. To find out more about the New Jersey Foundation for Aging and our work, visit our website at www.njfoundationforaging.org. We appreciate you joining us for this issue of Aging Insights. Until next time, take care, and remember, aging is everyone's business.